I always thought I was the lucky one. When Mark first entered my life, it felt like a movie. One of those romantic comedies where the successful, charming man sweeps the girl off her feet. We met at a friend's engagement party. I remember standing by the dessert table, nervously holding a plate of cake, when Mark approached me with that signature smile. Confident, effortless. "Is the cake any good?" he asked, his eyes sparkling. I laughed. "I guess you'll have to try it and see." From that moment, we were inseparable. He texted me the next morning, and the next, and the next. Dinners at fancy restaurants, weekend getaways to the countryside, surprise flowers at work. Mark made me feel special, desired, loved. Everyone adored him. My friends, my parents, my coworkers. "He's a catch," they'd whisper to me. And I believed them. Within a year, we were engaged. Mark proposed during a weekend trip to Napa Valley, under the stars, with a ring so beautiful it took my breath away. I cried as he slipped it onto my finger, convinced this was the moment my life had finally come together. The wedding planning began immediately. We toured venues, sampled cakes, met photographers, and argued over napkin colors. I threw myself into every detail, wanting the day to be magical, perfect. Mark seemed happy to let me take the reins. "Baby, you're so good at this stuff," he'd say, kissing my forehead. "I'll cover the honeymoon, don't worry." And so, I did. I covered the venue deposit, the photographer, the florist, the band, the catering, every invoice, every receipt, in my name. It added up fast. $30,000, my entire savings, and a chunk of credit. But it was worth it, I told myself. This was our future. The night before the wedding, I checked into a hotel suite with my bridesmaids. We laughed, sipped champagne, did face masks, and gushed over how tomorrow was going to be the best day of my life. My dress hung on a rack nearby, the delicate lace shimmering in the soft light. I glanced at my phone, expecting another goodnight love text from Mark. Instead, there was a message. "I need to talk." My heart stopped. I called him immediately. No answer. I called again, straight to voicemail. Then, another text. "I can't do this. I'm sorry." I stared at the screen, the words blurring through my tears. No, this had to be a joke. I called again. Again. Nothing. The laughter in the room faded as my bridesmaids noticed my pale face. "What's wrong?" one of them asked gently. I couldn't speak. I just handed her the phone, shaking. Suddenly, the world I had built, the perfect romance, the perfect wedding, the perfect future, started to crumble before my eyes. I woke up in the hotel suite with puffy eyes, mascara smudged on my pillow, surrounded by half-empty champagne glasses, and my silent, worried bridesmaids. No one dared to speak. The sun was up, and so were the vendors. Florists were already at the venue, setting up the expensive arrangements I had carefully chosen. The caterers were prepping in the kitchen. My parents had just arrived from out of town, still believing there was a wedding. I sat on the edge of the bed, my white silk robe crumpled at my feet. My phone buzzed nonstop. Calls, texts, emails. Guests were arriving, friends asking for directions, relatives checking in about the schedule. I wanted to scream. My maid of honor, Jenna, knelt beside me. "You should tell your parents," she whispered carefully. "But how do you tell your parents that the man you've been planning a life with just walked away? That after months of planning, saving, dreaming, he just left you there?" I felt like a fool. I pulled myself together just enough to call my mom. She was already at the venue, excited, waiting. When she heard my shaking voice say, "Mom, there's no wedding," she went silent, completely silent. Then she whispered, "What happened?" I couldn't answer. I didn't know. The rest of the morning was a blur of phone calls, apologies, and awkward explanations. Some guests were sympathetic, some were angry. They had flown in, booked hotels, bought gifts. Mark's family? Silent. His mom never answered my texts after that night. His best friend? Disappeared. It was as if they had all agreed to cut me out of their lives at once. By noon, I was standing alone in the venue, watching the florist take down the arch, the staff pack up the untouched cake, the DJ unplugging his equipment. $30,000. Gone. I had worked overtime for months, drained my savings, maxed out a credit card just to make this day perfect. Mark had promised to pay me back after the honeymoon. There was no honeymoon. There was no Mark, just me, standing under a string of fairy lights, holding my wedding dress in my arms, wondering how I had been so blind. That afternoon, Jenna stayed with me in the hotel room. We drank the leftover champagne, cried, laughed bitterly, scrolled through old photos of Mark and me. Every smile I saw in those photos, every memory, now felt like a lie. And still, no word from him. No, "I'm sorry," no explanation, no closure. I kept checking Instagram, wondering if he would post something, send a message, anything. He didn't. But the worst part wasn't even the money or the embarrassment. It was the nagging thought I couldn't shake. Had I missed the signs? Was it my fault? 2 days after the wedding that never happened, I sat alone in my apartment, surrounded by unopened wedding gifts and a mountain of bills. The silence was unbearable. I needed answers. I opened my phone, scrolled through old texts. With Mark. Months of sweet messages, late-night calls, silly selfies. How did it all lead to this? Where had things gone wrong? Desperate, I called his office. The receptionist, sounding hesitant, said, "Mark? Oh, he hasn't been in since last week. Do you know when he'll be back?" Sorry, I really don't. Panic prickled under my skin. I called his best friend again. Voicemail. I texted his sister. No reply. His mother. Nothing. It was like they had all ghosted me too. I decided to drive to his apartment. When I arrived, the place was eerily dark. His car was gone. I knocked. No answer. I waited, pacing, trying not to cry on the front steps. After an hour, the landlord came by and told me gently. He left 2 days ago. Gave notice, said he was moving out. He left, my stomach dropped. On the way home, I checked his Instagram again. That's when I saw it. His new post. A photo of Mark, standing on a beach at sunset, wearing sunglasses and a relaxed smile. The caption read, "Sometimes walking away is the best choice." My hands trembled. I wanted to scream, throw my phone, smash something. Walking away? That's what he called abandoning me at the altar? The comments were filled with supportive messages from strangers and friends. "Proud of you, bro. Sometimes you have to put yourself first. Freedom looks good on you." I felt like I was living in an alternate universe. Where was my side of the story? Where was the acknowledgement of what he had done to me? The woman who paid for the entire wedding, who trusted him, who believed they were building a life together. I spent the night stalking his social media, looking for clues, rereading every old message, replaying every conversation in my head. Had he been planning this? Did he ever love me at all? Jenna came over with takeout. She sat beside me, scrolling silently through his posts. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "You don't deserve this." But deep down, I couldn't help but wonder if maybe I had missed something. If maybe, just maybe, there was something wrong with me. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, realizing he was gone. Not just from the wedding, not just from the apartment, but from my life, and I was left to pick up the pieces. 2 weeks later, the world had moved on, but I hadn't. The venue called, politely reminding me about the unpaid balance. The florist wanted to know where to send the extra flowers. The photographer asked if I still wanted the engagement shoot. Photos. Everywhere I turned, there was a reminder of the wedding that never happened. My bank account was drained, $30,000 gone, on a dress, a party, a dream that evaporated overnight. Friends stopped checking in. Some were awkward, unsure of what to say. Others, I suspected, quietly blamed me. I heard whispers. She rushed things. She was too desperate. She should have seen it coming. And maybe they were right. I sat on the floor of my apartment, surrounded by unopened wedding gifts, fighting the urge to cry for the 100th time. That's when Jenna called. "Let's go out," she said. "I'm not in the mood," I mumbled. "No," she insisted. "You need to get out. You need to remind yourself that there's life beyond Mark." Reluctantly, I agreed. That night, we went to a little wine bar downtown. Soft music, dim lights, cozy atmosphere. As I sat there sipping a glass of red, I felt hollow. But then Jenna leaned in. "You know," she said, "this isn't the end for you." I gave her a sad smile. "Feels like it." "No," she said firmly. "You dodged a bullet." I raised an eyebrow. "Think about it," she continued. "A man who walks away like that, who leaves you to deal with everything. Alone? That's not a partner, that's a coward." Her words sank in slowly. For the first time I realized, yes, I was heartbroken. Yes, I was humiliated. But I was also free. Free from a man who didn't have the decency to face me. Free from a relationship built on illusions. Free to rebuild on my own terms. That night, I went home, poured myself a glass of wine, and sat down at my laptop. I opened a blank document. At the top, I typed what I learned from my broken engagement, and I started to write. Not for him. Not for the people who gossiped. But for me. To remind myself that I was stronger than I thought. To remind myself that my worth was not tied to a man or a wedding or a dress. To remind myself that sometimes the most painful endings lead to the most powerful beginnings. And so, with a deep breath, I closed the chapter on Mark and began the next chapter of my life.